In 1976, Paul McCartney wrote a song that he was afraid to finish. Not because the melody was wrong, not because the lyrics weren't coming, because the song was about John Lennon. They were still in the middle of the lawsuit. The Beatles had officially dissolved in 1970. The legal proceedings that followed, the management disputes, the financial claims, the attribution arguments, had been going on for 6 years. Paul McCartney and John Lennon had not spoken properly for 3 years, not since the dissolution had turned into litigation, not since the lawyers had arrived. Paul had things to say to John that he could not say through lawyers. He had been trying to find a way to say them for years. The song was the way. He described this period, the writing of what would eventually become Here Today, in a long interview he gave to a music documentary filmmaker in 2001, 25 years after he began writing it. He said the problem with finishing the song was that finishing it meant deciding to send it, to put it somewhere John would hear it, to make it real. And every time he got close to finishing it, something stopped him. He described getting close in the spring of 1976. He had most of it. He had the melody. He had the specific, aching quality of the lyric, the questions he would ask John if he could ask them, the things he wished he had said, the acknowledgment of what they had been to each other before the lawyers arrived. He played it to Linda McCartney. She told him it was done, that he was holding it back. He told her it wasn't ready. Linda told him what she thought was stopping him. She said, "You're afraid he won't like it." Paul was quiet. "You've spent 30 years being afraid John Lennon won't like what you've done," Linda said. "And you've spent 30 years doing it anyway. This isn't different." Paul described this moment in the 2001 interview with the specific combination of humor and tenderness that characterized his best conversations about John. He said Linda was right. She was almost always right about these things. He finished the song, but he did not release it. Not in 1976, not in 1977, not in 1978, or 1979. He held on to it. On December 8, 1980, John Lennon was shot and killed outside the Dakota Building in New York City. Paul learned the news the following morning in London. What happened in the hours after is part of the documented record. The journalists outside his gate, the statement he gave, the widely criticized simplicity of what he said when the press caught him. "It's a drag," he said. He has explained those 3 words in every interview he has given about John's death since. That he was in shock, that the press were waiting and he said the first thing that came out. That "it's a drag" was shorthand for something that had no words. What is less documented is what happened privately. He described it in the 2001 interview. He said that after the journalists left and the gate was closed and the house was quiet again, he went to his piano. He played Here Today, the song he had been writing since 1976, the song he had never finished because he was afraid John wouldn't like it, the song he had held on to for 4 years because finishing it meant sending it. He played it for the first time with John already gone. He sat at the piano and played and sang. In his house, alone, at 2 in the morning. Linda was nearby, but she had understood, as she usually did, that this was something he needed to do without an audience. Paul said in the interview that playing it that night, for no one, for John, who was gone and who would never hear it, was the strangest experience of his creative life. because the audience it had been written for was gone, and the song still needed to be played. And it still said what it had always said. He released Here Today in 1982 on the Tug of War album. He played it at the concert for Linda in 1998, the year after she died. He has played it at almost every major concert since. He has described it as the most personal song he has ever recorded. What he has rarely described is the night of December 9th, 1980. The piano, the 2 in the morning, the playing it through for no one, for the person it was written for, who couldn't hear it. Paul McCartney had spent 4 years afraid to finish a song because he was afraid John Lennon wouldn't like it. He finished it. He held it, and then the worst thing happened. And he played it anyway. Alone, at 2 in the morning, in December 1980. Because some songs have to be played, even when the person you wrote them for is gone. Especially then, because the playing is still for them, even if they can't hear it. It is still for them.